Shall we start it off?
Of course, Martin. Yes, please.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mediums in Action with me, Martin Litt-Wilson, and my good friend, Ian Doherty.
Hello, everybody.
Ian, you are a medium, aren't you?
I am, yes.
We're both mediums. And the reason why for this silly introduction is just that, we've done it that many times now. I didn't realize we're reaching nearly 15 episodes, I think it is now. So it's
really nice.
And we've had over 15,000 downloads as well, which in the last year alone, which is just great for us. We're a small little podcast, and we really appreciate everybody who talks about us and even bumps into in the street with you, Ian. You was visiting a spiritualist church.
I was, yes, and one of the person who was at that time going to be the chairperson, in sort of leading the service, telling me what I should be doing or introducing rather. This is the opening prayer. This is the philosophy. This is the mediumship. And he said, "Oh, your podcast! Oh, it's fantastic!" And he's an avid follower. It's brilliant,
Excellent. Excellent.
May I, if I may, take this opportunity to mention about the BBC Awards, Martin? If we could have all the votes possible, please, pretty please.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. I will put a link in the podcast details, and we have been nominated for a podcast listening awards organised with the BBC. If you follow the link, select Mediums in Action and vote, that would be really appreciated.
Yeah,
it's nice that we've been nominated. I believe it was 64 judges who went through a variety of different sector podcasts. We didn't put ourselves forward. We're not nominated, or nobody's nominated as far as we know, and yet we've been put forward to possibly winning this listeners award, which would be amazing.
Brilliant. Oh yes, absolutely. Definitely, and all thanks to you folks and folkesses.
Myself and Ian, obviously we met through the ghost hunts over the years. Ian and myself have been interested in the technology behind trying to investigate ghosts, so that's environmental. It also includes things like cameras and things like that. And I think today what we'd like to try and discuss is try and work out between us what we think is happening when, let's say, you get onto a ghost hunt and suddenly the camera batteries all go dead or things happen. And I know from my perspective, and just to set the scene, there's been countless times where we've gone to a particular investigation. We've set up cameras. One of them is just utterly dead. And sometimes it can be in the most haunted room, or it can be, in the area that's apparently haunted. I'm fairly open-minded about this, but I'm intrigued. What's your thoughts on how could spirit interact with, any piece of equipment?
Yeah, taking it from that sort of premise, the old sort of when you watch a horror film on the television or in the cinema, it always starts with the lights flickering on and off. So it's generally thought one of the reasons behind it, because spirit they don't have a physical body, they are energy. They can interact into that circuit and break that circuit, make the lights go off, make the lights come on, So there is that. I do feel that sort of stems maybe as into why when cameras go off, torches stop working, that it's spirit interaction with the circuit boards in that, whether it's a camcorder, it's a digital camera, posh camera, or the run-of-the-mill. It never happens, however, on mobile phones. I've never seen a mobile phone suddenly go.
I've seen mobile phones suddenly come on strangely, where we've been doing an event and suddenly somebody will go, "Oh, my mobile phone's on," and that sort of thing. You could be very skeptical and say, well, it was already on, and it's only when somebody text messaged you then you realised actually you'd not switched it off properly, which sometimes on some mobile models, certainly some of the early ones, if you kept your finger on the turn off button, it would look like it was going off. Yeah, and because you didn't keep your finger on longer than 5 seconds, it comes back on. But to me, what I struggle with, okay, let's say a 18th century ghost, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, but
of course,
an 18th century spirit comes back and decides that, right, I'm going to tinker around with this camera How does it know it's a camera? How does it know which circuit boards to mess around with?
Looking from that point of view, I think two things could be happening here. Firstly, the spirit interacting, when you call it a ghost, the spirit interacting with us, with the group, wanting to say, oh, I want to prove I'm here. I want, because partly, because not everybody is a medium and can perceive the presence of spirit, either visually, audio, then they make something happen in the physical world, a rap, a bang, a flash of light that we can perceive with the physical eye in our physical surroundings, so that could be one of the reasons. The other thing as well is that we place a 16th century, let's say, for instance, one of Oliver Cromwell's foot soldiers. Yes, in that day and age, they'd be thinking it was magic, witchcraft, whatever, and we'd be burnt at the stake in all probability for it. But I do feel also we are not given spirit the continuous existence, the learning, the learning, the progression of that spirit. So you guys are saying, well, this is what I used to look like when I was here, but I've sort of developed in that spiritual side of things. If you believe in that type of thing, bear in mind, I have a spiritualist background, so they are coming through, in the present day with a full knowledge of what's going on, but there's a pretense of needing the physicality, to show their physical form through with the medium's help to frame everything in. It is almost needing, or people who are there on the ghost hunt need to see or need to feel, be talked of somebody who is in a 16th century garb, the lobster tail helmet and everything. But spirit, as far as I'm sort of understanding this, as my guide is talking to me as well, in that way, when you sort of have the memories of what things used to be, then that spirit is in essence recalling stuff that happened and is interacting in our present day, but showing it as it was, if that makes sense.
My point of view with this is that there's two things happening here. The first one is that, let's say we're dealing with ghost energy, the recordings, and I don't like using the stone tape theory because obviously we've investigated everything from kind of wooden boats to swimming pools, you name it. But there is some sort of recording, and this is not interactive. It's just a recording. It just plays out in front of you. Now, I've always said, and many other ghost hunters have as well, but I've always said the whole point of ghost hunting is to try and find and break down the environmental changes, the subtle changes that happen when a ghost or spirit, and there might be two very different environmental actions happening here. I think we need to say that ghosts could be something that is maybe not spiritual. Maybe it is something that is almost physical. And when I mean physical in the way that we can't see electricity all around us, or we can't see methane gas. So ghosts, I would say, let's say ghosts are not actually a spiritual phenomena, but actually a physical phenomena that happened. So when, let's say, a ghost starts to play for whatever reason, let's say somehow the play button has happened with a ghost. When that happens, somehow the environment is changed, and these environmental factors can be the feeling that it's gone cold, or possibly cold spots, as people talk about. There's also, I have seen and experienced this with other people as well, where there is an increase in static electricity, and sometimes it can be heard. It can sound almost like when you take a jumper off and you can hear the crackling of do you know when you had hair, Ian, and you took your jumper off, there was all the sparkliness. I've seen that, I've recorded that, and I know that there is in some form that happens. And I think that possibly explains why things like laptops or electronic equipment sometimes goes wrong.
And static does do that.
Exactly. So the buildup of static will cause something to short circuit or cause something to not to not perform correctly. So that's the physical. So I think that happens a lot. I think the problem we have is then trying to determine, was that a ghost? Was that the physical phenomena, or was it spirit? And the only way of determining that, I feel, is through direct communication. Yes. I think if you was in a room and suddenly 2 cameras went off and you was not in communication with a spirit, then I'm pretty sure you would say you would have thought that was a ghost.
Yes, yeah, it is, because I think we had a talk years ago now about would it be possible to send a thought, like a sound wave into a wall and see what comes out, by
oh yeah, we worked.
Yeah,
and we worked out that if we did what we were suggesting, we would have blown our inner guts out or something.
Yeah, well, it is, but because this is one going on that theme there. When we talk about people sometimes feeling sick, and we've put it down to maybe a very, very, very low frequency, which is the type of frequency that comes with the tectonic plates rubbing, maybe a precursor to a earthquake, and people report feeling sick about it. So maybe on a much lesser way, obviously, there was some very, very low frequency waves that were causing people to feel sick, and I think we were looking at, could we digitally send a sound wave, not either a low noise, have a digital dictaphone or your smartphone recorder set up, and seeing if it gets any sort of noise. Do it, ask a question similar like to the white noise, the Ghost of 69 megacycles, I think the book was, in 1979, and coming over and seeing, could we get that?
Well, that's an interesting perspective what you've said there, because what you remind me of is, and for many years I've done a lot of Earth mystery research. If you look at things like the Dragon Project or the work of Paul Devereaux, these are all references you can find on Google. You'll see that they were doing similar experiments in the 70s and 80s at prehistoric sites in Britain. So there's places like the Rollright Stones where they discovered that by setting a particular vibration, let's say a drum slowly rolling, a deep drum, there would be an echo around the whole circle, and it would cause people to feel a bit strange, a bit, feel otherworldly. Mm-hmm. And there's another place called Bellas Knapp, which is on the outskirts of Winchcombe. And that is a very old burial chamber, a huge mound. The areas where the burials took place are open to the elements now, so you can actually climb inside and you can lay there. And the Dragon Project actually did dreaming tests in there, and a lot of people had headaches, as if there was a thumping happening, as if it was almost like it was breathing, the earth was breathing. And this comes back to what you were saying about tectonic plates and about the movement of the earth. And I'm pretty sure that humans were far more sensitive in the past,
very much,
to the earth and its elements. So things like these burial chambers, we could sense it far more. We could sense the hum and the feelings of this. And near me is a place called Lastingham Church, and it was originally founded, I think it was in 600 AD or something like that. It's one of the first. So it was originally a monastery, and then it was built upon by the Victorians and things like that. But if you go into the original crypt, people have walked into there and they've heard, like, again, a thumping or humming and a vibration happening in there. And it's exactly the same as the prehistoric, even though there's 2,000, 3,000 years between them. It's when you get into the earth, you start to feel that vibration, that movement. And you then start to look at this vibration and how it affects people, how it makes people feel. And then let's say you go to Blair Street Vaults, which is only 200-300 years old. It's directly underneath the nightclub. It's got very low bass music playing, and the exact same feelings are felt there. That there is
Oh, right. Interesting.
a thumping, which obviously you can physically hear,
Yeah.
but there is a sickness. There's a guttural feel. It affects you. It affects you on. I don't want to say it doesn't affect you on a spiritual level. It affects you on a very internal level. I want to say.
Yeah.
It affects you in a way that you're very unusual, in a very unusual way, in that you might not have experienced before. So all of these have a similar pattern in that it's is it infrasound? Is it?
Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's infrasound, and it has those similar effects, and it causes you to have to link in with the earth, I suppose, and maybe it did cause you, or at least at one time, maybe help you get into a meditative state,
Yeah.
and actually communicate with the ancestors. If you look at Cornwall, they've got these things called fogus, which are just, they almost look like tunnels that go into the earth, and you have to climb into these. You have to literally lay down, and people would lay in them, and they would wrap themselves up in tons of furs. They would often take psychedelic drugs or kind of magic mushrooms, that sort of thing. And I'm talking thousands of years ago. They're not in the 60s, although some people might have done that in the 60s. And they would lay in there and would have these dreams. So it all comes back to it is maybe that these vibrations are not just cause you to have hallucinations, but actually at one time maybe have helped to strengthen the bridge between us and spirit.
It's like going into the mother's womb, the cave or anything that is below earth could be, because they look at it as Mother Earth, don't they? So it could be going into that womb and maybe getting closer that way.
I was about to say, I don't know if spirit really does walk up to a camera and turn it off.
No, I don't think they do.
The only time where I would question my thought there was at Derby Jail. And at Derby Jail, it's a very small location, but it's got an area which was allegedly the area where people used to sit in the day, where they used to let people walk around and sit down. But in this particular area, which apparently had famous for shadowy figures, and Richard Felix apparently saw a ghost there as well. So we set up two cameras. We set up an analog camera and a digital camera. And we always did this because we wanted to see if there was any difference in the recording of a ghost from an analog perspective and also a digital perspective. We set them up. One was on a table. There was a candle there. And there was also the digital camera from another perspective. We set it up to record. Both doors were locked, and we was outside, and we was in the car park, and we was looking in. So we were just watching, and we was actually making sure that there was no interaction from any Derby Jail staff, any Richard Felix or anybody like that to walk in and accidentally kind of cause havoc. So as we was there, we all saw quite clearly in the car park a shadow walk past in front of the window. We thought, oh, how have they got in? So we ran in, walked in. All the trigger objects, all the strings and things like that we'd set up, all the flour on the floor, none of it was touched. So we walked through very, very slowly and gingerly, walked through. The digital camera was switched off. I think we'd been outside about 15 or 20 minutes. I checked the footage on the analog, and we wound it, and quite clearly you hear the sound of the button of the digital camera being pressed, and then it switches off.
Oh, wow.
Within about 10 seconds later, the shadow walks in front of the candle. It blanks out the candle light itself, and it walks in front of the analog camera, and you hear, and then it stops. And the sound didn't sound like wind, but it was like almost like a fuzz.
Yeah.
Like that sort of noise, and as it passed by. So that's the only time when I would say, yeah, okay, then that possibly could have been spirit, or maybe it was some sort of psychic activity. I don't know, but that's the only time where that throws it. I kind of keep an open mind and think possibly spirit did think, yeah, I'll press that button. There's always this trickster element with anything when you set up equipment. You set up equipment, your camera's slightly out of edge where a shadow's seen. Let's say you set up 4 cameras on a particular room. It's always the area that's just out of place. Yeah, where something happens. So how does spirit know that?
Exactly, that's the thing. I was interested when you were talking about phones coming back on and not fully doing it. There was one instance that sticks in my mind. This was at Peterborough Museum. We're on the back stairway. We're in, sitting all the way down there, and we had this one bloke's phone went off, and somebody said, "Oh, come on, mate," because there was a big group from a work party or something. "Oh, put it off, mate. Come on, we're here to have a good time." He turned his phone off, but as you said, whether he did the full 5 seconds, whatever, and it came back on again. So he, in front of everybody, he took the back off, he took the battery out, and he says, "Look, my phone is now off." Put the battery back on, and of course, I dare say putting the battery back in would start the phone up again. But anyway, your phone, it was about maybe a minute or so, which I suppose is the warm up time. The phone come back on, and everybody was calling him, "Oh yeah, this, that, and the other," in a friendly way. Of course, I can't say what they were saying on the podcast. Yeah. And he looked at the phone, and bear in mind this was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and somebody said, "Who the hell's talking to you at this time in the morning?" He says, "It's my home phone number." Somebody said, "Well, look, it must be important. Get back and ring them." He says, "I would," said, "but I live on my own." That was the thinking, oh my goodness, how's that happened? You know what I mean?
Oh dear. Wow.
I know. Honestly.
It is interesting, isn't it? I'm sure I was with you at Oak House, and it might have been the first ever investigation, and we were on the back stairs. And there was a lady with us called Alison. I don't know if you remember Alison. And she was there, and she had obviously we're talking probably 10, 15 years ago. And this was Oak House in West Bromwich. And we were sat on the back stairs, and the phone started vibrating. And she said, "Oh, I'm ever so sorry, I forgot to turn it off." And she turned it off, put it back in the pocket. And suddenly, one of the triangular signs that says "Be careful, water's on the floor," came flying down the stairs behind us, and everybody ran for it. Was you there that night?
Yeah. I was, yes, because I was having a right good laugh with people. I wasn't scared, so why did you run then? Oh no, I was following everybody else.
It was funny because I know we came down the stairs. We all looked at that sign because you could kind of perch up and look on the next level, and you could see the sign. Yeah. And it was at least 8 feet away. When Alison's mobile went off, it was almost felt like Spirit was saying, "Get that off," and kind of threw the sign down the back stairs. It's just a weird place. Oak House in West Bromwich, it was such a weird place. It wasn't the most active place, was it? But
well, no, it was hit and miss, granted. But I think you can say a lot of properties are, other than the ones that are currently getting a lot of hype, of course.
Well, I always remember going to Oak House, and this is my last story for I won't talk too long, but I always remember at Oak House, and it was quite dark on that top. So I got some glow sticks, cracked them open, and we lit up sort of the top floor, and we were sat in one of the bedrooms. And I sat on the end of the bed, and everybody said, "Right, let's just sit here quiet." And they were a really engaged group. They really wanted to sit quiet and listen and see what happened. Suddenly a woman went, "Oh my God, you're being overshadowed." I said, "What do you mean I'm being overshadowed?" She said, "Oh," and everybody went, "Oh my God, oh my God." And they started clambering away. And I said, "Are you all right? You're right. Oh my God, it's your face. Oh my God." And I'm thinking, "Oh my God, what's happening?" Yeah. So they went, "What is it? What is it?" And they all started switching the torches on. They went, "Oh, it's gone now." I said, What was it?" "Oh, your face looked really weird. It looked like you were being overshadowed." I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, turn the lights off again." I said, "Let's see. Hopefully it's not a reflection from outside." They turned the lights off again. It's there. And then we turned it back on, turned the lights on. It'd gone. But what had happened is when I cracked the glow sticks and threw them, some of the glow stick stuff had gone on my hand. I'd sat down and rubbed my face because, you're tired. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'd rubbed my face. I'd put glow stick stuff all over my face. So everybody, and it hadn't rubbed it so all my face wasn't lit up. It's just where my fingers had come down my face. Yeah. It had like lines, and it kind of mutated my face when I was sat in the dark. So Oak House has very pleasant memories for me. But I think if anything about what we've been discussing today, Ian, is I suppose it's everything that we say in our mediumship is use your common sense.
Oh, yes, you definitely have to.